Hello and welcome to Lutherans Alive. This is the program that seeks to tell the stories of Lutheran Christians and their ministries here in southwestern Pennsylvania, believing that God is doing wonderful things through us. I'm Pastor Tony Schneck, and I am joined on the program today by Pastor Heather Lubold. Pastor Heather is one of the pastors at the Berkley Hills Lutheran Church on Sangree Road in Ross Township. Pastor Heather, welcome to the program.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
And Pastor Heather also happens to serve on the council of our Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. And Pastor Heather, could you say a little bit about how this is an opportunity to serve the larger church? What exactly does it mean to be a part of the council of the ELCA?
Well, I'm still learning. I actually was elected to fulfill a term that had been vacated by someone who changed positions and wasn't able to serve in that capacity anymore. So I only have the opportunity to serve for 2 years out of a 6-year term. And we only meet a couple times a year, so there's a big learning curve there to discover what it is about. But the council serves as the governing body between national churchwide assemblies. And so we gather much as a regular church council would meet every month and do the work of the church, but we meet twice a year and then field things through conference calls as well throughout the year as the need arises.
It may be helpful for some of our viewers to know that our Evangelical Lutheran Church in America has well over 4 million members here in the United States, and 65 synods, geographical areas, and all the congregations in the ELCA have, as you stated, councils, or church councils, leaders of the congregation, lay people who make decisions, serve on committees and such for the leadership of local congregations. And I would think that in some ways the council of the ELCA would function in a somewhat similar way in terms of leadership of the church.
In some ways it's a matter of scale because we're 37 people, 33 members plus the officers in charge of all of those congregations and people and pastors and synods. Our job is to help move ahead the work of the church, the ministry that we do together. We all know that congregations are involved in ministry, but each congregation as part of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America joins in the work we do together. And so some things that congregations can't do by themselves, we together can do. So things like global mission, world hunger, relationships with ecumenical partners. That all happens through the larger church body and some of the policy setting and those kind of things. And so the council, again, functions between assemblies to fine-tune some of that, to make some decisions that need to be made, to do some preparation for the assemblies so that members of synods who come to the assemblies make final decisions, but we make recommendations and do some of the groundwork and study and that kind of thing.
The headquarters of our Evangelical Lutheran Church in America is located in Chicago, Illinois, and is that where most of the meetings take place?
Yes. Yeah, we have a large building there where all of the regular staff and the presiding bishop have offices, and then they have a meeting room where we meet, and usually it's a weekend event. We go on Friday and meet through Sunday or Monday and do a lot of work in a few days.
Try to cram a lot in.
Oh, yeah.
While they have people traveling from all over.
Correct. They try very hard to get representatives from around the nation and it's an amazing group of people that gather, the 33 members. I've really enjoyed getting to know these people. They come from all walks of life, all ages, all different kinds of things. What's amazing is, and wonderful to discover is, these are people deeply committed to Christ, and very faithful people, and very active at home in their church and in their ministry, and then they bring all these amazing gifts to the table. And so people who run businesses and in politics, and just like our congregations are filled with people with amazing gifts. God has brought all these people together for the work of the church.
Are there specific responsibilities that you have as a member of the ELCA Church Council, committees on which you serve, or areas to which you've been assigned?
Mm-hmm. I serve on the Planning and Evaluation Committee. One of the things we do is we deal with some of the research aspects that the church gets involved in. And most recently, we've been involved in the LIFT study, which is Living into the Future Together. They asked people from across the church to respond to some survey questions to talk about what does the church mean to you, what's important that the church be involved in, what are the priorities as we look to the future, and a changing future as the church looks ahead. Where do we really need to focus, and what areas are most important to our members, so that as the church evaluates, it's a ongoing, constant process of saying, are we the church we need to be? Are we involved in the ministry we need to be involved in? Do we have the right priorities? And so we're at the stage of receiving recommendations from that Living into the Future Together study, and then processing the recommendations, and we'll go ahead and make some recommendations to the council and to the next National Assembly about priorities and directions for the church at large.
So it's too soon to say anything right now about the results of that research?
Yeah, what I've seen so far is it's a very mission-oriented focus, that we be a church in mission, and that focus be on all levels of the church, that congregations be about mission in their communities, and that synods and the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America really help congregations to be about mission. There aren't a lot of other details out yet, but that's some of the initial things. The majority of the responses say we need to be a church active in the world, mission and service.
Those are the early signs of what is to come as far as that research, that we need to be out there in our communities. More about that and more about the work of the ELCA Church Council and our life together as the people of God after we take a short break. Welcome back to Lutherans Alive. We're continuing our conversation with Pastor Heather Lubold, and we're talking about the leadership of the church as she continues to serve on the ELCA Church Council. So give us a little sneak peek, if you could. Give us a little window into what is it like inside a meeting, if we could be a fly on the wall, of a meeting of the ELCA Church Council, the leadership, Bishop Hansen in there, and other bishops, pastors, rostered leaders, lay people. What's going on?
Okay. That's a good question, because when I first went, I had no idea what to expect at all. and was pleasantly surprised. There's 33 members of the council and 4 officers, and we gather around tables with microphones, and they've gone wireless, but also paperless for a lot of the meetings, and so I kind of pushed myself to just use my computer and not request hundreds and hundreds of pages of paperwork that we need to read. There really are literally hundreds of pages of preparation paperwork to read ahead of time. But to do it all in the computer, you save a lot of trees that way. But in addition to the members of the council, there are advisors from the Conference of Bishops, and the Conference of Bishops elects, I think, 9 bishops, and so they're also located in the room as advisors and people who come with specific areas of interest and concern, and they're able to work with us toward the things they need to see happening. There's 2 youth advisors. I think they're advisors or members, young people who come, and it's been fun to get to know them and see their dedication to the church and the growing leadership that they have in the church. There's also advisors from the church, and so different committees, different units of the church will send people with specific areas of specialty, so that should we need information or should there be a topic where we need to interact with some of the staff, we can do that. There's also people who just come to hear what's going on from different groups of special concern to make sure that kind of watchers in the room, flies on the wall, to listen to the conversation. There's a great concern that the church hear all of the voices of the various kinds of people that make up the church, the various areas of interest. So, we want to represent a well-rounded picture of the church. There's people of other languages, people of other cultural backgrounds. It's a well-mixed group, because in reality our church is made up of many people, and we try very hard to honor that, and part of the process is to reflect on that occasionally. How well are we listening to each other? How well are the various voices and concerns being heard?
To say a few words about those concerns right now. What are some of the issues facing us right now as a church? What could you say about that? And not just the concerns and the uncertainties, but the joys as well. What could you say about our life together right now as a church?
I think it's difficult to be the church right now. It's been very difficult to be in leadership in the ELCA. After the August 2009 National Assembly, Churchwide Assembly, some of the decisions made there have deeply affected the church, and some of the decisions regarding our welcoming of people who are in committed relationships have affected many congregations and synods across the country. And what we've seen is that paired with the economic downturns in the country have affected the finances of the church. And so there's been the need to cut back drastically on the national staff, on the some of the ministry that's happening that we were used to doing. And so you go and there's empty desks and there's fewer people trying to do the same work. And so there's a lot of stress and a lot of prayer need for people who are trying to still be faithful to the church and the call to serve and to do ministry in the world. I think also, there's the council itself is not single-minded. many people come with raising lots of good questions. None of it's, often sitting back in Pennsylvania, we assume we know what happens in Chicago, and I often hear people say, oh, it's just all, a few people making all the decisions and those kind of things. But I see people really struggling to make faithful decisions, and people, the council itself is not all of one mind, and that's good, which it means that we're checking each other and we're calling into question things that need to be questioned, and eventually you have to make decisions. The other thing is that the council's role is to follow up on what the church-wide assembly has decided. And so some of the things that we do, we are mandated to do. Some of the policy that we've had to shift because of decisions made in August of 2009, we don't have a choice. The church-wide assembly has directed us to make those policy changes based on the decisions they made. And I think those are the things I didn't understand going into this, quite how all of that worked and who has the authority to make certain kinds of decisions. I think what I've seen is they've worked very hard as a church to be good stewards of the resources that have been directed toward the national church and toward its ministry. A lot of the cutbacks have been necessitated by the financial response of congregations and synods. But in the midst of that, what we're starting to see is things leveling off, things smoothing out. We're starting to see the results of some hard but good decisions that have been made. And so there's kind of a hopefulness that's returned that says, maybe we're getting in a place where we can really start to move ahead again. Fewer resources, a more consolidated effort. We used to enjoy individuals who could specialize in certain areas. Now people need to field more than one area because there's less people. So we used to be able to call Chicago and get answers about from someone who was specialized in something like Christian Ed or Global Mission or something like that. Now there isn't an individual who just does that. There's an individual who does that and many other things. So it's been hard, I think, adjusting to those kind of changes, even from a congregation and synodical level. But they've needed to make those decisions, and I think the hope is that we're creating an organization that can move ahead, that can be about ministry, that can change more rapidly as we live into the future. Sometimes organizations don't change quickly enough with changing times, and so they're trying to establish something that'll change quickly because that's the world we live in. I think our staff, getting to know Bishop Hansen and the people around him, it's just amazing people. It's been fun to see Don McCoy again. He's at most of these meetings, our former bishop, and to see him working. He does a lot in ecumenical and international relationships and fits the role very well. He does great. Yeah, just wonderful people.
More about leadership and life in the church after we take another short break. Welcome back to Lutherans Alive. We're here with Pastor Heather Lubold, who serves as a member of the ELCA Church Council. Pastor Heather, we were talking before the break about some of the disagreements. Indeed, you get a group of people together and they can't agree on everything. We certainly can't get over 4 million people to agree on every small detail. Can't get everyone in the congregation to agree on every small detail. A group of leaders, it's difficult to get everyone to agree on everything. And yet, as you say, St. Paul would remind us, even in the scriptures, that we are to be of one mind. We are to be one body. Let there be no, he even says, let there be no divisions among you. And to that, we almost want to say, what? No division? How can that be? Be in agreement, let there be no divisions among you. But yet there are. Yet there are these divisions, and yet, what can you say about the unity of the church? And it seems to me that the unity of the church is something deeper, something more meaningful than agreeing on all the details. Can you say something about that?
Yeah, well, I think it's based on our relationship and our call with Jesus Christ. And when we can stay focused on that and keep talking about what is Jesus calling us to do and to be, and then give us the room to live into that, each in our own expressions as congregations and as synods. Bishop Hansen talks about using the language of, there's room in the church for everyone. And there's room for people who very much agree with decisions that have been made, and people who really disagree with decisions that are made, and for all the people in between. And that's how I've always appreciated and understood the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, is we live in this continuum, and we can find ourselves along the continuum and find ourselves in the church. And my hope would be that that's where people can find themselves, that they belong here without us all needing to be in the same place all the time, and that what really grounds us is our faith in Jesus Christ and His call to be the church together. And it's sad for those who are feeling like they don't fit, that there isn't room for them. There's a lot of sadness over those congregations and people who have decided that they can't be part of the ELCA anymore. But the graceful side of that is that we're still one in Christ. And while maybe we aren't the same church body anymore, we are still the church together and still in mission together. And I think the examples of leadership that I've seen sitting around that table in Chicago have made me a better leader, have taught me things. I think they've encouraged me to keep focused in my own ministry on what's really important. And we can get caught up in lots of things, and not to say that those aren't important issues, but simply to say that sometimes we can allow them to distract us from where God is calling us.
Absolutely. It's certainly possible for us to want to sweep those differences under the rug, and we don't want to make light of any serious issues that are before the church. But at the same time, do we need to let those things separate us? Right. That we are all one in Christ, regardless, and that indeed that is a biblical injunction to stick together, to be one, and that was Jesus' prayer, that His people would be one, and that we can still be that, and plus it's just more fun to be together.
It really is.
Is it not?
It really is, and when you get out beyond your own congregation, there is great joy in meeting other Lutherans, other Christians, other people of faith. And, when we're in our own little congregations, we get so used to each other. But how wonderful to open up the whole world to us just by sitting next to somebody different at a new table. And that's one of the joys of serving in this way is it opens up the world, and you see things from new perspectives, and you understand that we're not the only ones struggling with certain issues, and we're not the only ones finding joy in the work of God. and how we really are connected through our life in Christ.
So it's been a very enriching experience for you personally
It really
to serve in
has.
this way.
It really has. I've enjoyed it tremendously, yeah.
Good, good. Well, thank you for your service to the church in this way, not only as a pastor here in one of our local congregations, but also as a leader and member of the ELCA Church Council. And we will continue to support and pray for the work of our larger church. It is good to be together. It is good to be the people of God. It's good to be the church.
Thank you.
And we need to be it. Thank you, Pastor Heather, for being with us here today.
Thank you.
And thank you for being with us on Lutherans Alive. We know that from wherever you are watching, in your community or near your community, there is a Lutheran congregation that would be very pleased to welcome you. Come worship with us. See you next time on Lutherans Alive.